Hello. We need our. I keep thinking I should get music set up, and then I'm like, but I don't want to sift through like what is going to get claimed and what's not. And then I just get distracted and don't do anything. Just getting a post up for Patreon. All right, I think that's all the places. Okay, so let me get the book up. Where's this thing? Get my reader up to the right size. Okay, so Snow Crash is a 1992 novel. Um, the if you hadn't heard, uh, all right, see you later, War Traveler. If you hadn't heard, uh, Neuromancer by William Gibson got it's getting what looks like it's going to be a very good Netflix series out of nowhere, which totally unexpected. Um, Neuromancer is a really cool story. It It is a really interesting book because the main character kind of doesn't understand what's going on the entire time. Sort of none of them do. And the reader is able to kind of pick this out of the narrative due to the sort of getting a broader look at things than any of the individual characters have. But because of this, the book is, even though it's a very kind of straightforward noir action book, it's people are always like, oh, this is very confusing. It is also said to be the book that invented cyberpunk, and that's not quite true. Gibson's first story in the Sprawl universe was Johnny Mnemonic, which is a short story. I might go ahead and read that actually after this. Uh, and Johnny Mnemonic was made into an absolutely god awful movie with Keanu Reeves that has almost no relation to what the story is about. It's very strange. Um, but the Sprawl series, despite being funny, like the characters themselves are funny, the Sprawl series is a lot more self serious than most people would think of when they think of cyberpunk. And that's because of the tones set by authors like Stevenson. Stevenson came in 92. I believe Neuromancer was 96 and Johnny Mnemonic was 95. Stevenson came in 92 on the tail of a bunch of other writers who had been just fixated on this new kind of science fiction, this new world. And but by 92 it was old hat. It was it was like showing up to be a punk in like 98. And but Stevenson knew that going in, and so he wrote a very kind of like a scathing parody, but it's one of those parodies that strikes at the heart of what the source material was trying to say in a way that the source material is not always able to do because of its self-seriousness, which is something that there's a lot of media that you come across, like Evangelion is a little bit like this with mecha anime. There's a lot of stuff about Evangelion that is just completely parodying or lampshading things that go on in the standard mecha anime of the day from the 70s through the 90s, and winds up being kind of better than a lot of them. God, the sirens again. Well, I guess it fits for what we're about to do. So I'm going to read the first chapter of Snow Crash, yeah. Where is that? Got it here. Stevenson's also a very funny writer. I would highly recommend Stevenson's The Baroque Cycle. I also have yet to read Cryptonomicon by him, but that's also supposedly very good. Snow Crash is not the best cyberpunk book, but its opener is probably the best first chapter I've ever read in a book. So here we go. The Deliberator belongs to an elite order, a hallowed subcategory. He's got a spree up to here. Right now, he is preparing to carry out his third mission of the night. His uniform is black as activated charcoal, filtering the very light out of the air. A bullet will bounce off its arachnofiber weave like a wren hitting a patio door, but excess perspiration wafts through it like a breeze through a freshly napalmed forest. Where his body has bony extremities, the suit has sintered armor gel. Feels like gritty jello, protects like a stack of telephone books. When they gave him the job, they gave him a gun. The Deliberator never deals in cash, but someone might come after him anyway. Might want his car or his cargo. The gun is a tiny ACM-styled lightweight, the kind of gun a fashion designer would carry. It fires teensy darts that fly at 5 times the velocity of an SR-71 spy plane, and when you get done using it, you have to plug it into the cigarette lighter, because it runs on electricity. Just getting my reader better lined up with what I'm... The Deliberator never pulled that gun in anger or in fear. He pulled it once in Gila Highlands. Some punks in Gila Highlands of fancy Burvclave wanted themselves a delivery, and they didn't want to pay for it. Thought they'd impress the Deliberator with a baseball bat. The Deliberator took out his gun, centered its laser doohickey on that poised Louisville slugger, fired it. The recoil was immense, as though the weapon had blown up in his hand. The middle third of the baseball bat turned into a column of burning sawdust, accelerating in all directions like a bursting star. Punk ended up holding this bat handle with milky smoke pouring out the end, stupid look on his face. Didn't get nothing but trouble from the Deliberator. Since then, the Deliberator has kept the gun in the glove compartment and relied instead on a matched set of samurai swords, which have always been his weapon of choice anyhow. The punks in Gila Highlands weren't afraid of the guns, the Deliberator was forced to use it. But swords need no demonstrations. The Deliberator's car has enough potential energy packed into its batteries to fire a pound of bacon into the asteroid belt. Unlike a bimbo box or a burb beater, the Deliberator's car unloads that power through gaping, gleaming, polished sphincters. When the Deliberator puts the hammer down, shit happens. You want to talk contact patches? Your car's tires have tiny contact patches. Talk to the asphalt in 4 places the size of your tongue. The Deliberator's car has big sticky tires with contact patches the size of a fat lady's thighs. The Deliberator is in touch with the road. Starts like a bad day, stops on a peseta. Why is the Deliberator so equipped? Because people rely on him. He's a role model. This is America. People do whatever the fuck they feel like doing. You got a problem with that? Because they have a right to. Because they have guns and no one can fucking stop them. As a result, this country has one of the worst economies in the world. When it gets down to it, Talking trade balances here. Once we've brain drained all our technology into other countries, once things have evened out, they're making cars in Bolivia and microwave ovens in Tajikistan and selling them here. Once our edge in natural resources has been made irrelevant by the giant Hong Kong ships and dirigibles that can ship North Dakota all the way to New Zealand for a nickel, once the invisible hand has taken all those historical inequities and smeared them out into a broad global layer of what a Pakistani brickmaker would consider to be prosperity, you know what? There's only 4 things we do better than anyone else: music, movies, microcode, software, high-speed pizza delivery. The Deliberator used to make software, still does sometimes, but if life were a mellow elementary school run by a well-meaning education PhDs, the Deliberator's report card would say Hero is bright and creative but needs to work harder on his cooperation skills. So now he has this other job. No brightness or creativity involved, but no cooperation either. Just a single principle. The Deliberator stands tall. Your pie in 30 minutes or you can have it free, shoot the driver, take his car, file a class action suit. The Deliberator's been working this job for 6 months, a rich and lengthy tenure by his standards, and he has never delivered a pizza in more than 21 minutes. Oh, they used to argue over times. Many corporate driver years lost to it. Homeowners, red-faced and sweaty with their own lives, stinking of Old Spice and job-related stress, standing in their glowing yellow doorways, brandishing their Seikos and waving at the clock over the kitchen sink. I swear, can't you guys tell time? Didn't happen anymore. Pizza delivery, a major industry, a managed industry. People went to Cosa Nostra Pizza University for 4 years just to learn it. Came in its doors unable to write an English sentence. From Abkhazia, Rwanda, Guanajuato, South Jersey, and came out knowing more about pizza than a Bedouin knows about sand. And they had studied this problem, graphed the frequency of doorway delivery time disputes, wired the early deliberators to record, then wired the early deliberators to record, then analyze the debating tactics, the voice stress histograms, the distinctive grammatical structures employed by the white middle-class type A Burvclave occupants who, against all logic, had decided this was the place to take their personal Custarian stand against all that was stale and deadening in their lives. They were going to lie or delude themselves about the time of their phone call and get themselves a free pizza. No, they deserved a free pizza along with their life, liberty, and pursuit of whatever. It was fucking inalienable. Sent an anonymous interview. Hooked them to polygraphs. Studied their brainwaves as they showed them choppy, inexplicable movies of porn queens and late-night car crashes and Sammy Davis Jr. Put them in sweet-smelling, mauve-walled rooms and asked them questions about ethics so perplexing that even a Jesuit couldn't respond without committing a venal sin. The analysts at Cosa Nostra Pizza University concluded that it... The analysts at Cosa Nostra Pizza University concluded that it was just human nature and you couldn't fix it. And so they went for a quick, cheap technical fix: smart boxes. The pizza box is a plastic carapace now, corrugated for stiffness, a little LED readout glowing on the side, telling the deliberator how many trade imbalance producing minutes have ticked away since the fateful phone call. There are chips and stuff in there. The pizzas rest, a short stack of them in slots behind the deliberator's head. Each pizza glides into a slot like a circuit board into a computer. Clicks into place as the smart box interfaces with an onboard system of the deliberator's car. The address of the caller has already been inferred from his phone number and poured into the smart box's built-in RAM. From there, it's communicated to the car, which computes and projects the optimal route on a heads-up display, a glowing colored map traced out against the windshield so that the deliberator does not even have to glance down. If the 30-minute deadline expires, news of the disaster is flashed to Cosa Nostra Pizza headquarters and relayed from there to Uncle Enzo himself, the Sicilian Colonel Sanders, the Andy Griffith of Bensonhurst, the straight-up razor-swinging figment of many a deliberator's nightmares, the capo and prime figurehead of Cosa Nostra Pizza Incorporated, who will be on the phone to the customer within 5 minutes, apologizing profusely. The next day, Uncle Enzo will land in the customer's yard in a jet helicopter and apologize some more and give him a free trip to Italy. All he has to do is sign a bunch of releases that make him a public figure and spokesperson for Cosa Nostra Pizza and basically end his private life as he knows it. He will come away from the whole thing feeling that, somehow, he owes the mafia a favor. The deliberator does not know for sure what happens to the driver in such cases, but he's heard some rumors. Most pizza deliveries happen in the evening hours, which Uncle Enzo considers to be his private time. And how would you feel if you had to interrupt dinner with your family in order to call some obstreperous dork in a burbclave and grovel for his late fucking pizza? Uncle Enzo has not put in 50 years serving his family and his country so that at the age when most men are playing golf and bobbling their granddaughters, he can get out of the bathtub dripping wet and lie down and kiss the feet of some 16-year-old skate punk whose pepperoni was 31 minutes in coming. Oh, God, it makes the deliberator breathe just a little shallower to think of the idea. But he wouldn't drive for Cosa Nostra Pizza any other way. You know why? Because there's something about having your life on the line. It's like being a kamikaze pilot. Your mind is clear. Other people, store clerks, burger flippers, software engineers, the whole vocabulary of meaningless jobs that make up life in America, other people just rely on plain old competition. Better flip your burgers or debug your subroutines faster and better than your high school classmate 2 blocks down the strip is flipping or debugging, because we're in competition with those guys and people notice these things. What a fucking rat race that is. Cosa Nostra Pizza doesn't have any competition. Competition goes against the mafia ethic. You don't work harder because you're competing against some identical operation down the street. You work harder because everything is on the line. Your name, your honor, your family, your life. Those burger flippers might have a better life expectancy, but what kind of life is it anyway? You have to ask yourself. That's why nobody, not even the Nipponese, can move pizzas faster than Cosa Nostra. The deliberator is proud to wear the uniform, proud to drive the car, proud to march up the front walks of innumerable Burbclave homes, a grim vision in ninja black, a pizza on his shoulder, red LED digits blazing proud numbers into the night, 1232 or 1515, or the occasional 2043. The deliberator is assigned to Cosa Nostra Pizza number 3569 in the valley. Southern California doesn't know whether to bustle or just strangle itself on the spot. Not enough roads for the number of people. Fairlanes Incorporated is laying new ones all the time. Have to bulldoze lots of neighborhoods to do it, but those 70s and 80s developments exist to be bulldozed, right? No sidewalks, no schools, no nothing. Don't even have their own police force. No immigration control. Undesirables can walk right in without being frisked or even harassed. Now a burbclave, that's the place to live. A city-state with its own constitution, a border, laws, cops, everything. The deliberator was a corporal in the farms of Maryville State Security Force for a while once. Got himself fired for pulling a sword on an acknowledged perp. Slid it right through the fabric of the perp's shirt, gliding the flat of the blade along the base of his neck, and pinned him to a warped and bubbled expanse of vinyl siding on the wall of a house that the perp was trying to break into. Thought it was a pretty righteous bust. But they fired him anyway, because the perp turned out to be the son of the vice-chancellor of the farms of Maryvale. Oh, the weasels had an excuse. Said a 36-inch samurai sword was not on their weapons protocol. Said that he had violated the SPAC, the Suspected Perpetrator Apprehension Code. Said that the perp had suffered psychological trauma. He was afraid of butter knives now. He had to spread his jelly with the back of a teaspoon. They said that he had exposed them to liability. The deliberator had to borrow some money to pay for it. Had to borrow it from the mafia, in fact. So he's in their database now. Retinal patterns, DNA, voice graph, fingerprints, footprints, palm prints, wrist prints, every fucking part of the body that has wrinkles on it almost. Those bastards rolled in ink and made a print and digitized it into their computer. But it's their money. Sure, they're careful loaning it out. And when he applied for the deliberator job, they were happy to take him because they knew him. When he got the loan, he had to deal personally with the assistant vice capo of the valley, who later recommended him for the deliberator job. So it was like being in a family, a really scary, twisted, abusive family. Cosa Nostra Pizza number 3569 is on Vista Road just down from Kings Park Mall. Vista Road used to belong to the state of California and is now called Fairlanes Incorporated Route CSV5. Its main competition used to be a U.S. highway and is now called Cruiseways Incorporated Route Cal 12. Farther up the valley, the two competing highways actually cross. Once there had been bitter disputes, the intersection closed by sporadic sniper fire. Finally, a big developer bought the entire intersection and turned it into a drive-through mall. Now the roads just feed into a parking system. Not a lot, not a ramp, but a system, and lose their identity. Getting through the intersection involves tracing paths through the parking system, many braided filaments of direction like the Ho Chi Minh Trail. CSV5 has better throughput, but Cal 12 has better pavement. That's typical. Fairlanes roads emphasize getting you there for Type A drivers, and cruiseways emphasize the enjoyment of the ride for Type B drivers. The deliberator is a Type A driver with rabies. He's zeroing in on his home base, Cosa Nostra Pizza number 3569, cranking up the left lane of CSV5 at 120 kilometers. His car is an invisible black lozenge, just a dark place that reflects the blinking of franchise signs, the low glow. One moment. A row of orange lights burbles and churns across the front where the grill would be if this was an air-breathing car. The orange light looks like a gasoline fire. It comes in through people's rear windows, bounces off their rearview mirrors, projects a fiery mask across their eyes, reaches into their subconscious and unearths terrible fears of being pinned, fully conscious, under a detonating gas tank. Makes them want to pull over and let the deliberator overtake them in his black chariot of pepperoni fire. The low glow, overhead, marking out CSV5 and twin contrails, is a body of electrical light made of innumerable cells, each cell designed in Manhattan by Imagineers who make more for designing a single logo than a deliberator will make in his entire lifetime. Despite their efforts to stand out, they all smear together, especially at 120 kilometers per hour. Still, it's easy to see Cosa Nostra Pizza number 3569 because of the billboard, which is wide and tall even by current inflated standards. In fact, the squat franchise itself looks like nothing more than a low-slung base for the great aramid fiber pillars that thrust the billboard up into the trademark firmament. Marca registrata, baby. The billboard is a classic, a chestnut, not a figment of some fleeting mafia promotional campaign. It is a statement, a monument built to endure. Simple and dignified, it shows Uncle Enzo in one of his spiffy Italian suits. The pinstripes glint and flex like sinews. The pocket square is luminous. His hair is perfect, slicked back with something that never comes off. Each strand cut off straight and square at the end by Uncle Enzo's cousin, Art the barber, who runs the second largest chain of low-end hair-cutting establishments in the world. Uncle Enzo's standing there, not exactly smiling, an avuncular glint in his eye for sure, not posing like a model, but standing there like your uncle would. And it says, "The Mafia. You've got a friend in the family. Paid for by the Our Thing Foundation." The billboard serves as the deliberator's pole star. He knows that when he gets to the place on CSV5 where the bottom corner of the billboard is obscured by the pseudo-Gothic stained glass arches of the local Reverend Wayne's Pearly Gates franchise, it's time for him to get over into the right lanes where the... I'm not going to read the R slur. And bimbo boxes poke along, random, indecisive, looking at each passing franchise's driveway like they don't know if it's a promise or a threat. This was 1992, and obviously the book is establishing a certain macho tone. He cuts off a bimbo box, a family minivan, veers past the buy and fly that is next door and pulls into a Cosa Nostra Pizza number 3569. Those big fat contact patches complain, squeal a little bit, but they hold on to the patented Fairlanes Incorporated high traction pavement and guide him into the chute. No other deliberators are waiting in the chute. That is good. That means high turnover for him. Fast action. Keep moving that za. As he scrunches up to a stop, the electromechanical hatch on the flank of his car is already opening to reveal his empty pizza slots, the door clicking and folding back in on itself like the wing of a beetle. The slots are waiting for hot pizza. And waiting. The deliberator honks his horn. This is not a nominal outcome. Window slides open. That should never happen. You can look at the three-ring binder from Cosa Nostra Pizza University, cross-reference the citation for window, chute, dispatchers, and it will give you all the procedures for that window, and it should never be opened. Unless something has gone wrong. The window slides open, and, you sitting down? Smoke comes out of it. The deliberator hears a discordant beetling over the metal hurricane of his sound system and realizes that it is a smoke alarm, coming from inside the franchise. Mute button on the stereo, oppressive silence, his eardrums uncringed. The window is buzzing with the cry of the smoke alarm. The car idles, waiting. The hatch has been open too long. Atmospheric pollutants are congealing on the electrical contacts in the back of the pizza slots. He'll have to clean them ahead of schedule. Everything is going exactly the way it shouldn't go in the three-ring binder that spells out all of the rhythms of the pizza universe. Inside... Inside, a football-shaped Abkhazian man is running to and fro, holding a three-ring binder open, using his spare tire as a ledge to keep it from collapsing shut. He runs with the gait of a man carrying an egg on a spoon. He is shouting in the Abkhazian dialect. All of the people who run Cosa Nostra pizza franchises in this part of the valley are Abkhazian immigrants. It does not look like a serious fire. The deliberator saw a real fire once at the farms of Maryvale, and you couldn't see anything for the smoke. That's all it was, smoke, burbling out of nowhere, occasional flashes of orange light down at the bottom, like heat lightning in tall clouds. This is not that kind of fire. It is the kind of fire that just barely puts out enough smoke to detonate the smoke alarms. And he is losing time for this shit. The deliberator holds the horn button down. The Abkhazian manager comes to the window. He's supposed to use the intercom to talk to the drivers, and he could say anything he wanted and it would be piped straight into the deliberator's car. But no, he has to talk face to face, like the deliberator is some kind of fucking ox cart driver. He is red-faced, sweating. His eyes roll as he tries to think of the English words. Fire. A little one, he says. The deliberator says nothing, because he knows that all of this is going on videotape. The tape is being pipelined, as it happens, to Cosa Nostra Pizza University, where it will be analyzed in a pizza management science laboratory. It will be shown to Pizza University students, perhaps to the very students who will replace this man when he gets fired, as a textbook example of how to screw up your life. New employee, put his dinner in the microwave, had foil in it, boom, the manager says. Abkhazia had been part of the Soviet fucking Union. A new immigrant from Abkhazia trying to operate a microwave was like a deep-sea tube worm doing brain surgery. Where did they get these guys? Weren't there any Americans who could bake a fucking pizza? Just give me one pie, the deliberator says. Talking about pies snaps the guy into the current century. He gets a grip. He slams the window shut, strangling the relentless keening of the smoke alarm. A Nipponese robot arm shoves the pizza out and into the top slot. The hatch folds shut to protect it. As the deliberator is pulling out the chute, building up speed, checking the address that has flashed across his windshield, deciding whether to turn right or left, it happens. His stereo cuts out again. On command of the onboard system, his cockpit lights go red. Red! A repetitive buzzer begins to sound. The LED readout on his windshield, which echoes the one on the pizza box, flashes up. 2000. They have just given the deliberator a 20-minute-old pizza. He checks the address. It is 12 miles away. The deliberator lets out an involuntary roar and puts the hammer down. His emotions tell him to go back and kill that manager, get his swords out of the trunk, drive in through the little sliding window like a ninja, track him through the moiling chaos of that microwave franchise, and confront him in the climactic thick crust apocalypse. But he thinks the same thing when someone cuts him off on the freeway. And he's never done it. Yet. He can handle this. This is doable. He cranks up the orange warning lights to maximum brilliance, puts his headlights on auto flash. He overrides the warning buzzer, jams the stereo over to taxi scan, which cruises all the taxi driving frequencies listening for interesting traffic. Can't understand a fucking word. You could buy tapes, learn while you drive, and learn to speak taxi lingo. It was essential to get a job in the business. They said it was based on English, but not one word in 100 was recognizable. Still, you could get an idea if there was some trouble on this road, they'd be babbling about it in taxi lingo, giving him some warning. Let him take an alternate route so that he wouldn't get... He grips the wheel, stuck in traffic. His eyes get big. He can feel pressure driving them back into his skull. Or caught behind a mobile home. His bladder is very full. And deliver the pizza. Oh, God, late. 2206 hangs on the windshield. All he can see, all he can think about is 3001. The taxi drivers are buzzing about something. Taxi lingo is mellifluous babble with a few harsh foreign sounds like butter spice with broken glass. He keeps hearing fare. They're always jabbering about their fucking fares. Big deal. What happens if you deliver your fare late? You don't get as much of a tip? Big deal. I like just the random samurai poem that it just launches into, the samurai death poem. Big slowdown at the intersection of CSV5 and Oahu Road, per usual. The only way to avoid it is cut through the Mews at Windsor Heights. TMAWHs all have the same layout. That's the Mews at Windsor Heights. I'll say it as TMA. When creating a new burbclave, TMA Development Corporation will chop down any mountain ranges and divert the course of any mighty rivers that threaten to interrupt this street plan. Ergonomically designed to encourage driving safety. A deliberator can go to a Mews at Windsor Heights anywhere from Fairbanks to Yaroslavel to the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone and find his way around. But once you've delivered a pie to every single house in a TMA a few times, you get to know its little secrets. The deliberator is such a man. He knows that in a standard TMA there is only 1 yard that prevents you from driving straight in one entrance, across the burbclave, and out the other. If you're squeamish about driving on grass, it might take you 10 minutes to meander through a TMA. But if you have the balls to lay tracks across that 1 yard, you have a straight shot through the center. The deliberator knows that yard. He's delivered pizzas there. He's looked at it, scoped it out, memorized the location of the shed and the picnic table, can find him even in the dark. Knows that if it ever came to this, a 23-minute pizza, miles to go, and a slowdown at CS5 in Oahu, he could enter the Mews at Windsor Heights. His electronic delivery man's visa would raise the bridge gate automatically. Scream down Heritage Boulevard, rip a turn onto Strawbridge Place, ignoring the dead-end sign and a speed limit and children playing ideograms that are strung so liberally throughout TMA, thrash the speed bumps with his mighty radials, blast up the driveway of number 15 Strawbridge Circle, cut a hard left around his backyard shed, careen into the backyard of number 84 Mayapple Place, avoid the picnic table, tricky, get into their driveway and out onto Mayapple, which takes him to Bellwoods Valley Road, which runs straight to the edge of the burbclave. TMA security police might be waiting for him at the exit, but their STDs, severe tire damage devices, only point one way. They can keep people out, but not keep them in. This car can go so fucking fast that if a cop took a bite out of a donut as the Deliberator was entering Heritage Boulevard, he probably wouldn't be able to swallow it until about the time the Deliberator was shrieking out onto Oahu. Thunk, and more red lights come up on the windshield. The perimeter security of the Deliberator's vehicle has been breached. No, it can't be. Someone is shadowing him. Right off his left flank, a person on a skateboard rolling down the highway right behind him, just as he's laying in his approach vectors to Heritage Boulevard. The Deliberator, in his distracted state, has allowed himself to get pooned, as in harpooned. It is a big round padded electromagnet on the end of an arachnofiber cable. It is just thunked onto the back of the Deliberator's car and stuck. 10 feet behind him, the owner of this cursed device is surfing, taking him for a ride, skateboarding along like a water skier behind a boat. In the rear view, flashes of orange and blue. This parasite is not just a punk out having a good time, it is a businessman making money. The orange and blue coverall, bulging all over with sintered armor gel padding, is the uniform of a courier from Radic-KS, Radical Courier Systems. Like a bicycle messenger, but 100 times more irritating because they don't pedal under their own power. They just latch on and slow you down. Naturally, the Deliberator was in a hurry, flashing his lights, squealing his contact patches, the fastest thing on the road. Naturally, the courier would choose him to latch onto. No need to get rattled. With the shortcut through T-Mall, he'll have plenty of time. He passes a slower car in the middle lane, then cuts right in front of him. The courier will have to unpoon or else get slammed sideways into the slower vehicle. Done. The courier isn't 10 feet behind him anymore. He's right there, peering in the rear window, anticipating the maneuver. The courier reeled in his cord, which is attached to a handle with a power reel in it, and is now right on top of the pizza mobile, the front wheel of his skateboard actually underneath the Deliberator's rear bumper. An orange and blue gloved hand reaches forward, a transparent sheet of plastic draped over it, and slaps his driver's side window. The Deliberator has just been stickered. The sticker is a foot across and reads in big orange block letters printed backwards so that he can read it from the inside. That was stale. He almost misses the turnoff for the Muse at Windsor Heights. He has to jam the brakes, let traffic clear, cut across the burb lane to enter the burbclave. The border post is well lighted, the customs agent ready to frisk all comers, cavity search him if they're the wrong kind of people. But the gate flies open as if by magic, as if the security system senses that this is a Cosa Nostra, Cosa Nostra pizza vehicle. Just making a delivery, sir. And as he goes through, the courier, that tick on his ass, waves to the border police. What a prick! Like he comes in here all the time. He probably does come in here all the time, picking up important shit for important T-Ma people, delivering it to other Folkneys, franchise organized quasi-national entities, getting it through customs. That's what couriers do. Still, he's going too slow. Lost all his momentum. His timing is off. Where's the courier? Reeled out some line. Falling behind again. The Deliberator knows that this jerk is in for a big surprise. Can he stand his fucking skateboard while he's being hauled over the flattened remains of some kid's plastic tricycle at 100 kilometers? We're going to find out. The courier leans back. The Deliberator can't help watching in the rear view. Leans back like a water skier, pushes off against his board and swings around beside him, now traveling abreast with him up Heritage Boulevard, and slap, another sticker goes up. This one on the windshield. It says smooth move, X-Lax. The Deliberator's heard of these stickers. It takes hours to get them off. Have to take the car into a detailing place. Pay trillions of dollars. The Deliberator has two things on his agenda now. He's going to shake this scum, whatever it takes, and deliver the fucking pizza all in the space of 24:23. The next 5 minutes and 37 seconds. This is it. Gotta pay more attention to the road. He swings into the side street, no warning, hoping maybe to whipsaw the courier into the street sign on the corner. Doesn't work. The smart ones watch your front tires. They see when you're turning. Can't surprise them. Down Strawbridge Place. It seems so long. Longer than he remembered. Natural when you're in a hurry. Sees the glint of cars up ahead. Cars parked sideways to the road. These must be parked in the circle. And there's the house. Light blue vinyl clapboard with two-story with one-story garage to the side. He makes that driveway the center of his universe. Puts the courier out of his mind. Tries not to think about Uncle Enzo, what he's doing right now. In the bath, maybe. Or taking a crap. Or making love to some actress. Or teaching Sicilian songs to one of his 26 granddaughters. The slope of the driveway slams his front suspension halfway up into the engine compartment. But that's what suspensions are for. He evades the car in the driveway. Must have had visitors tonight. Didn't remember that these people drove a Lexus. Cuts through the hedge, into the side yard, looks for that shed. That shed he absolutely must not run into. It's not there. They took it down. Next problem, the picnic table in the next yard. Hang on, there's a fence. When did they put up a fence? This is no time to put on the brakes. Got to build up some speed. Knock it down without blowing all this momentum. It's a 4-foot wooden thing. The fence goes down easy. He loses maybe 10% of his speed, but strangely, It looked like an old fence. Maybe he made a wrong turn somewhere, he realizes as he catapults into an empty backyard swimming pool. If it had been full of water, this one wouldn't have been so bad. Maybe the car would have been saved. He wouldn't owe Cosa Nostra Pizza a new car. But no. He does a stuka into the far wall of the pool. It sounds more like an explosion than a crash. The airbag inflates, comes back down a second later like a curtain revealing the structure of his new life. He is stuck in a dead car in an empty pool in a T-Maw. The sirens of Burbclave security police are approaching, and there's a pizza behind his head, resting there like the blade of a guillotine, with 2517 on it. Where's it going? Someone says. A woman. He looks up through the distorted frame of the window, now rimmed with a fractal pattern of crystallized safety glass. It's the courier talking to him. The courier's not a man, it is a young woman. A fucking teenage girl. She's pristine, unhurt. She has skated right down into the pool. She's now oscillating back and forth one side of the pool to the other, skating up one bank, almost to the lip, turning around, skating down, and up again the opposite side. She's holding her poon in her right hand, the electromagnetic reeled up against the handle so that it looks more like some kind of strange wide-angle electromagnetic death ray. Her chest glitters like a general's with 100 little ribbons and medals, except each rectangle is not a ribbon. It is a barcode with an ID number that gets her into different business, highway or Faulkner. Where? She says. Where's the pizza going? He's going to die and she's gambling. White columns, 5 Oglethorpe Circle, he says. I can do that. Open the hatch. His heart expands to twice its normal size. Tears come to his eyes. He may live. He presses a button and the hatch opens. On our next orbit across the bottom of the pool, the courier yanks the pizza out of its slot. The deliberator winces, imagining the garlicky topping accordioning into the back wall of the box. Then she puts it sideways under her arm. It's more than the deliberator can stand and watch. But she'll get it there. Uncle Enzo doesn't have to apologize for ugly, ruined, cold pizzas. Just late ones. Hey, he says, take this. The deliberator sticks his black-clad arm out the shattered window. A white rectangle glows in the dim backyard light. A business card. The courier snatches it from him on her next orbit. It says, Hero protagonist, last of the freelance workers, greatest sword fighter in the world, Stringer Central Intelligence Corporation, specialized in software-related intel, music, movies, and microcode. On the back is a gibberish explaining how he may be reached, a telephone number, a half electronic communicate. On the back is gibberish explaining how he may be reached, a telephone number, a half electronic communications nets, and an address in the metaverse. Stupid name, she says, shoving the card into one of 100 little pockets in her coverall. But you'll never forget it, Hero says. If you're a hacker, how come I'm delivering pizzas? Right. Because I'm a freelance hacker. Look, whatever your name is, I owe you one. Name's YT, she says, shoving out the pool a few times with one foot, building up more energy. She flies out of the pool as if catapulted, and she's gone. The smart wheels of her skateboard, many, many spokes expanding and retracting to fit the shape of the ground, take her across the lawn like a pat of butter sledding across hot Teflon. Hiro, who as of 20 seconds ago is no longer the deliberator, gets out of the car and pulls his swords out of the trunk, straps them across his body, prepares for a breathtaking nighttime escape run across T-Maw territory. The border with Oakwood Estates is only minutes away. He has the layout memorized, sort of, and he knows how these Burbclave cops operate because he used to be one. So he has a good chance of making it. But it's going to be interesting. I'm picturing Black Noir in that one episode of The Boys where he's like on the roof across the street in the suburbs. Above him, in the house that owns the pool, a light has come on, and children are looking down at him through their bedroom windows, all warm and fuzzy in their Lil Crisps and Ninja Raft Warrior pajamas. Lil Crips and Ninja Raft Warrior pajamas. Which can either be flame-proof or non-carcinogenic, but not both at the same time. Dad is emerging from the back door, pulling on a jacket. It is a nice family, a safe family, and a house full of light, like the family he was part of until 30 seconds ago. So that is the first chapter, I believe. I think that's all of it. It is 1/30th of the book, if the page count is to be believed. It's a good book. It's it shows its age a little bit in places, but that's kind of the point of the book. The first chapter has all of the swagger of like the person that Hiro imagines himself to be, and he goes from this to just being like a nobody, and He's a very funny character because he's very capable. He's very like he is actually a really good sword fighter. He is really good at programming. He was a good driver. He just didn't quite realize where he was. But he has kind of a big head about it, and the story's like always trying to kick him down a peg, and he's always kind of fighting back. Um, it is cheesy, but it's cheesy in a funny way because it's if you've played Cyberpunk 2077, you were probably realizing how much of that must have come from here. Um, Cyberpunk predates this book. Uh, I want to say that the first Cyberpunk edition was like in '89. Um, but you can see what it was getting to. It's like in this book, and I think also in Cyberpunk, they were saying like the future is not going to be dignified. Like the corporate takeover of America that people were really like seeing in the 80s going into the 90s was a very, I mean, we're seeing it now, right? Like it's very like degrading to just like the culture itself, right? Um so like all of these things that sound extremely important, and then you hear about it and it's like this is a pizza company. What are you talking about? You know, like that kind of thing. This is Snow Crash by Neil Stevenson. Neil is a I don't know what he is now, but at the time he was a libertarian, uh, which has taken on a pretty different meaning than it used to have. And Neil was always very interested in like the origins of capitalism and all of its weird problems and like where they came from. Actually, I don't know if Neil is like calls himself a libertarian. He just has always struck me as one. I think he is. Um, but the it's the same kind of stuff I was like studying in school, and so I really like the Baroque cycle because he's like he's talking about like the origins of like the birth of capitalism and how that played into many of the same ideas you see here in Snow Crash, which is like once you globalize the market starts doing things kind of its own accord, which are not compatible with human life and happiness. Um, Seven Eves, I read the first chapter and I just couldn't hang. I don't know. Stevenson feels a little hit or miss to me. When he's good, he's really good. After this, could I discuss Hyperion? So I read Hyperion and I didn't love it. I thought it was okay, but I didn't love it. I had read The Terror by Dan Simmons sometime earlier. Uh, Hyperion is a story about a bunch of people on this planet. It's about like humanity has expanded into the galaxy through, if you're familiar with 40K, like a webway. Like there are these like travel routes you can take from one planet to another that are really fast. They're faster than light. But if you want to go anywhere that isn't from like across the specific web of travel networks, it takes much longer. And so it's about a bunch of people who live outside of that, what is the normal flow of time to everybody else, because they are space travelers of one sort or another who are coming and going through regular space travel. And uh, they and they are on this planet kind of trying to figure out um, how to deal with what seems like basically an impending apocalypse. And each one of the characters, it's sort of like a ship of the damned type thing, if you know that story, with all the everybody telling their short story on this seemingly doomed vessel. But instead of everybody telling, I mean, they do tell a short story, but each of their short stories is kind of uh, based on some piece of writing in the history of English writing, or like the English language writing. Um, and so it's sort of like Simmons is trying to do like a, what would you even call that? Like a retrospective of English and American literature, mostly English, I guess. Um, but I didn't love it, but I read The Terror by Dan Simmons, which is an account of it's a fictionalized account of the Franklin expedition that was really cool. It's a horror story that becomes like a supernatural thing that is kind of layered over the already everyday horror of an Arctic expedition being lost. And A&E made a series called The Terror, and it's 2 seasons as far as I know. It might be more. The first season is just a um, televised version of the book, and it's incredible. It's amazing. So if you like tall ships, if you like uh, men of honor in the age of sail, undertaking grim tasks for the for England, it's very very good. And I think the book does some interesting stuff with it's not people often say Inuit as like a broad term for indigenous people in the Arctic, but I think uh, it's a specific people. I can't remember. It's like the name of a anyway. I like trying to dig through like stuff about the book now, but finding stuff about the actual expedition. But the show I think is even better at treating the dealing with like the folklore that goes into the kind of supernatural terror that's going on alongside the more mundane stuff. And it gets to a point where there's even like a really cool like I don't know if you've seen the show, you know what I'm talking about, where it's like uh, the show's like primary villain, not the supernatural thing that's going on, but the primary human villain almost takes on a supernatural quality of his own, which is different from what the more overtly supernatural thing is doing. It's really neat. It feels like a very good kind of metaphor for a lot of what was going on during the Age of Sail, and the actors, especially the guy who plays Crozier, and who is his not Franklin, the other dude. I don't know if you've seen Fitzjames, and Crozier. Their actors both incredible, really really good stuff, like amazing. And then the second season is actually George Takei uh, wrote it and helped with the he's in it, and he also like helped do like a I don't know if he directed or if he did some of the more behind the scenes stuff, but he it's about Japanese internment, and there's like a kind of a ghost story thing going on during that. It's also very good. So yeah, the Terror show is amazing. And I think the show The Terror is also like if you like horror stories, but you don't like them to be like too dark and too sad, which they often are, especially when you have a story about a real life expedition that nobody came back from. Um, it is a pretty grim show, but the show finds more humanity in the characters than the book was able to. I think, especially through the performances. There's that moment where Fitzjames is asking Crozier, like, he like tells Crozier, like, why he tried so hard to become an officer. And it's great stuff. Yeah. James Harris plays Crozier. Jared Harris, yeah. Uh, what else has Jared Harris been in? I feel he was in he's in Chernobyl. Yeah, he does a really good job in Chernobyl as the main dude. Terrible at names. He was also in Morbius. Okay. Sometimes I'll watch like Northern Lion, and he'll go on like uh I don't even know the name of the quiz thing he goes on, like the movie quiz, not quiz, but like the movie trivia game website that he's always on. And it's like he can name every actor. He knows everything they were in from movies that no one would watch twice. It's like, come on, dude. We just have different kinds of neurodivergence, I guess. um, my favorite book series is Gone by Michael Grant, somebody says. That's Spicy Eye Drops. Yeah, so with you'll see a random lead actor for an obscure 90s comedy and he nails it. Yeah, Northern Lion is built different. What's really funny is go back to his like stuff from like 10 years ago. His voice is different, and not in like a he got older way. His voice is different, like he went through puberty a second time. I don't know what happened. Got on HGH or something. Um, but gosh, Conman says that Hyperion is like Canterbury Tales with a sci-fi edge. Yeah, that's definitely what they were going for sure. I wanted to read. Somebody asked if I should read if I could read some King in Yellow on stream. I looked at it because I read it for the Signalis video, but like it's good, but it's not the kind of writing that like grabs you. I don't think. I think the ideas in it were really resonant with Lovecraft for good reasons, and it's funny. The book is funny because there's no like scary ghost guy in it. There's no like tentacle man. There is a moment where a guy um he's like in a church, and uh some kind of a road like a figure follows him into the church, and he's like trying to distract himself with the church service, and then he realizes he's like now been transported somewhere else, and the guy's there. And so people are like, oh, that's the King in Yellow, but that's not. There's no King in Yellow in the book. The book is a play called The King in Yellow, and the whole point of it is that you don't get to know what it's about, because as soon as it's a tentacle man, it's not scary anymore. Like, oh, his name is Hastur, and you just sign. If you see the sign, and if you say Hastur, he'll come and get you, like the Bye Bye Man. And I don't know. That's not interesting. That's not very good. Does whatever a tentacle can. What's he like? It's not important. Tentacle Man. Or is that Particle Man? Yeah. Is he a dot or is he a speck? I think that might not show because I had the VLC source and alert box closed because we got Randall with a $20 dono. Was surprised how much I enjoyed that. Hits close to home. Thank you, Randall. um, sorry for having those off. I wasn't. And the chat box was off. Okay, I'm losing it. So I haven't been feeling great today. I thought I'd do a shorter stream. I might read a couple of poems though, because we got a little bit of time, and I'm feeling okay. So I'm gonna read first. I'm not a big poetry buff. I actually kind of don't like poetry a lot of the time. What is the name? What is the equivalent of the play in The King in Yellow and Signalis? The book. Michael Pallet is it's the book, The King in Yellow. And it appears to be not the play. It appears to be like the book, like we have it in our world. And what appears to be going on in Signalis is that you can use a book for a cipher, So if you know anything about cryptography, which is what spies use to transmit messages across the radio when people could be listening in, um, you can use a book as a key. And if you know what the book is, you'll be able to decrypt any of the encrypted messages. If you don't know what the book is, there is just zero chance you'll ever get it, unless the cipher is really stupid. Because it's not like a simple substitution cipher. It's like every letter and number in the cipher would mean something to the listener that they could then go look at a specific part of the book to get like a letter or phrase. Yeah, they're making a Neuromancer show. It's on, I talked about it at the beginning of the stream. Seems good. I like Neuromancer. I like Gibson. Yeah, like a thing that bothered me about the Cyberpunk show, or sorry, a thing that bothered me about Cyberpunk when it came out is people were like, "That's not Cyberpunk. Cyberpunk comes out is in the nighttime and it's raining," and it's like, no, that's like uh, shit came out in '89, and it is very much in keeping with the themes as we see them in Snow Crash, which is one of the most prominent works of cyberpunk, which is like this like degradation of the human soul, where like nothing is sacred to the point where like even the afterlife has been monetized. And so that's why in the game you have all of these really crass ads yelling at you all the time. It's to just make you feel that sense of just like existence is worthless because of the worth that is the value that has been placed on it. But yeah, so in Signalis they have this the book the King in Yellow, which is in the Atoll bookstore. And when Ariane sees it, she remembers that her mother would listen to the radio and consult the book, suggesting that her mother was also working as a spy, um, and just taking down and or sending, probably sending because they were in the middle of nowhere, uh, or maybe doing both, messages to Rotfront. Um, and so that book appears everywhere because it becomes a symbol of the chain that connects all of these characters together, like the chain of seemingly unconnected events that has brought the Atto sisters and Ariane and both Eristas and everybody kind of into one shared hell. City's haunted by the ghost of capitalism. Oh, the standalone complex. Yeah, where a dead guy's corpse is trading stocks. Yeah, that's that episode's called Yes. So standalone complex is really good, but it's funny because a lot of people are like, "Oh, that's cyberpunk." No, it is not. That I mean, it is because that kind of genre quibbling is very stupid. But it was specifically written to be like a post cyberpunk kind of story. The idea was that the in the 2000s especially, like there was this sense that like so after the Cold War there was a triumphal era in the United States and kind of in the West where everyone thought like, oh, okay, we're going to be prosperous and good forever. And this is the same something that comes up in Zero Parades too, where it's like, oh, capitalism won, that means we're all going to make money forever. And in Ghost in the Shell standalone complex, what you have is Japan in that setting is really nice. Like everywhere they go, it's all clean. People say that show looks like an Apple store sometimes. But that's like specifically confined to Honshu. The rest of the world is doing really badly. We hear about like the American Empire has like collapsed in on itself, and it's all kinds of civil war. And we find out that like a lot of the Section 9 people used to be, that fought in like South America or something like that. And just the whole world is not doing well. And what's going on in Standalone Complex is like this battle between the sort of Japanese like bureaucracy, like it's democracy and it's like government institutions fighting against like corporate corruption, and just barely squeaking out a win. It was a very hopeful show about like how our institutions can weather the the relentless advance of capital? And the answer is I don't think they can. Not on their own. And we don't have the major in real life, so. Season two, yeah. So season one's great, and it has a cool ending. I like the Saito, hand me that weapon. Uh, I like season one, but season two is cool because it takes you out of the comfort zone that the show gave you, and is like, well, no, actually, things aren't good. Like, there's a huge refugee crisis. The the cost of Japan being so cozy is explored. Wish we had major IRL. And then there's the new Ghost in the Shell show too. That's very different. So it's always struck me as very funny that Cyberpunk 2077 dropped in 2020, like, or dropped it like, it was like right before. God, when did it come out? Okay, it was in 2020, so it was like the year of COVID. And it had that really disastrous release. But the hype that had gone on before it released was unbelievable, especially like 2018, 2017. If you were hearing the things that people were saying about that game, it was out of control. And there was this notion that like the game was going to come to your house and fuck you, like it was that good. And uh obviously it's just a video game. And when it came out and it was just a video game, people went berserk. Like they couldn't handle it. And um, I'm not going to say the release wasn't buggy for a lot of people. I didn't have many bugs on launch, but uh, there was this insane overreaction to it, and it felt like the end of like the hopeful era of the 2010s. Because throughout the 2010s, you had this like sense that like, oh, everything's going to be all right, especially like in the first half where it's like the second Obama term's coming out pretty good, and then even like 2016 happened and it was still like, oh, okay, but like whatever. Um, and then just rapidly everything went to shit here. First trailer was in 2012. Yeah. And if you look at how the game is constructed, like if you go like free cam and look around the world or what's in the files, I think they had the same problem that like you read about with Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within, which destroyed like Squaresoft and uh, Sakaguchi's career. Just completely derailed it. If you read about what was going on with that movie production, like they didn't have a if you've ever seen the movie, it's terrible, but it's a CGI movie and it's one of the first like feature length mocap CGI films, meant to be released to general theaters. And the way Squaresoft was like burning money to make this thing just boggles my mind. You read about like they didn't have a storyboard before they started making assets. And to make character assets is one thing, but like they were making like world assets because it's a 3D movie, so you have to go in and model everything. They were just modeling stuff. Like they were like, "Oh, let's make this cool city and all these vehicles and like here's this stuff." And they like didn't know how they were going to use it or if it was going to get used. So just like hundreds or thousands of hours of labor just were for nothing. Like they were just pointless. Like, oh, I'm going to make a cool like space car. And if you look at the way that 2077 is put together, it is very clear that they built the city before they even knew what kind of game they had on their hands. Um, and so when you go back and you hear all of these weird promises that come out like in like 2014, 2015, where it's like, oh, you're gonna be able to buy a house and you're gonna be able to like start a business and like do all these things that aren't really in the game. Like, yeah, you can get an apartment, but whatever. It's because they didn't have a good idea of what kind of game it was supposed to be. It's very odd. And it reflects like CD Projekt Red is big now, but they weren't big before Witcher 3. And Witcher 3, if you look at it as it's a well done game. Like it's kind of everything people say it is, but like there was no reason to expect it was going to be that good, right? Spirits Within made a good third act for a story. Too bad they didn't make the first or second acts. What cracks me up is there are a number of bad ideas that the Final Fantasy team in the late 90s was obsessed with. Um, so when Final Fantasy VIII went into production, um, I believe it was Kitase directing. I was forgetting who exactly directed it. Yeah, Kitase directed, of course. Um, uh, Sakaguchi was off doing stuff for Spirits Within and for Final Fantasy IX, and he kept coming back to the office for like trips and stuff and looking at what they were working on with Final Fantasy VIII and saying to Kitase like, you should go back from these. You have these like realistic, like lifelike scale character models. That's no good. You should go back to like these chibi models like we had in Final Fantasy VII, like the field models. And he's like, Final Fantasy, everybody should be chibi. And that's why the proportions are so weird in Final Fantasy IX, which looks fine for everybody except Zidane, who looks terrifying. I don't know if you've ever like thought about this guy. Putting the cursed image of him up. We got a cursed Zidane. Where is he? Oh yeah, that's good. Oh yeah, that's good. I hate looking at him. It bothers me. Like, there's nothing about his design that's bad except for his proportions. Oh, we get another image where you can see his whole body. Yeah, look at that. He's terrible. He's a real boy now. Yeah, he does. He's a little Pinocchio, but like everybody else in the game is cute. Like, where's Steiner? Let me get a Steiner in here. Here's the Nomura drawing of Steiner. He looks funny. I'm not a Nomura fan when it comes to Final Fantasy, but his monster drawings, his like drawings of like Sephiroth's like transformations are amazing. Like really, really cool stuff. But like here's Steiner, and like he's a little cartoony proportion, but like he looks fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But you couldn't make Final Fantasy VIII with these guys. It's just like you know, squalls running around like this. That'd be no good. And another one is there's a backdrop in Final Fantasy VIII where you can't see it on the PS1. But if you have an emulator and you're like up-resing it, there's enough like data in the texture image to see it on a modern display. There's a map of like real Earth in the background, and the I was looking at that like what the or no, is it in Final Fantasy X? It might be in 10. I thought it was in 8, but it might be 10. But I was like reading about that because I was like, why is there a real Earth map in this like random area backdrop? And it's because they kept thinking like, oh, we got to make the next Final Fantasy game happen in the real world. It's got to be on Earth. It's got to happen like Earth today. And then they kept running into the immediate obvious problem of, well, how do we get from that to like having an RPG adventure? It's like all of the tortured weird ideas that they kept trying to put together for some reason wound up resulting in the Spirits Within, and it was really bad. Hi, pal. So I'm about to read the next thing. It took them until FF13.3 to get to real Earth. Oh my god, checked out. I can't hang with anything after 10. I used to not like 10, and I went back and 10 has some stuff that gets in the way of taking it seriously. People say like, "Oh, the voice acting's bad." No, the voice acting's incredible. It's just that they, when Square made that game, they didn't realize that you have to. Obviously, if you're dubbing the game in other languages, you need to be able to control how long a character stays on screen and how many times their mouth moves. And Square had not made like a voice acted, a fully voice acted 3D game before, so they didn't separate the timer that controls things in cutscenes from the time, like the global timer that controls the whole game. So you can't add or remove any lip flaps or like shots in cutscenes because it would break the entire game. And so they handed this thing to the like the U.S. like the localization staff, and were basically like, good luck. And so that's where you get things where like will be on screen for like 3 frames, and she'll just go, yes. That's great. The weirdo FF8 monsters. Yeah, Nomura did the character designs for FF8. He did most of the monsters for FF8. He's been doing monsters at least, I think, since Final Fantasy V. And it's his biggest strength. And he did the character designs for 7, which is why they look so drab comparatively. And which I guess fit when they were trying to like make them into 3D models, because they didn't have that much in the way of like visual fidelity yet. I was like how developers innovated with very limited hardware. Yeah, that stuff, and you see less and less of that every year. So Final Fantasy 87: The Quest for Fent. All right, so I'm going to read Azathoth by H.P. Lovecraft. It's a short poem. It is a poem that was found unfinished in his works after his death, I believe. And people compare it to, if you know about Kubla Khan by Samuel Taylor Coleridge, which is another unfinished poem. It has the same kind of vibe, but I like this one a lot. It's one of my favorites. When age fell upon the world and wonder went out of the minds of men, when gray cities reared to smoky skies tall towers grim and ugly, in whose shadow none might dream of the sun or spring's flowering meads, when learning stripped earth of her mantle of beauty and poets sang no more save of twisted phantoms seen with bleary and inward-looking eyes, when these things had come to pass and childish hopes had gone away forever, there was a man who traveled out of life on a quest into the spaces whither the world's dreams had fled. Of the name and abode of this man but little is written, for they were of the waking world only. Yet it is said that both were obscure. It is enough to know that he dwelt in a city of high walls where sterile twilight reigned, and that he toiled all day among shadow and turmoil, coming home at evening to a room whose one window opened not onto the fields and groves, but on a dim court where other windows stared in dull despair. From that casement one might see only walls and windows, except sometimes when one leaned far out and peered aloft at the small stars that passed. And because mere walls and windows must soon drive to madness a man who dreams and reads much, the dweller in that room used night after night to lean out and peer aloft to glimpse some fragment of things beyond the waking world and the grayness of tall cities. After years he began to call the slow-sailing stars by name and to follow them in fancy when they gilded regretfully out of sight, till at length his vision opened to many secret vistas whose existence no common eye suspects. And one night a mighty gulf was bridged, and the dream-haunted skies swelled down to the lonely watcher's window to merge with the close air of his room and make him a part of their fabulous wonder. There came to that room wild streams of violet midnight glittering with dust of gold, vortices of dust and fire swirling out of the ultimate spaces and heavy with perfumes from beyond the worlds. Opiate oceans poured there, litten by suns that the eye may never behold, and having in their whirlpools strange dolphins and sea nymphs of unrememberable deeps. Noiseless infinity eddied around the dreamer and wafted him away without even touching the body that leaned stiffly from the lonely window. And for days not counted in men's calendars, the tides of far spheres bear him gently to join the dreams for which he longed, the dreams that men have lost. And in the course of many cycles, they tenderly left him sleeping on a green sunrise shore, a green shore fragrant with lotus blossoms and starred by red camelots. That's it. It's not a long poem. It's very cool. So Azathoth is named elsewhere in Lovecraft's writings as this like formless chaos. It's what Gygas is based on. I don't know why he called this poem Azathoth. Maybe the man was visiting Azathoth by looking out into the Milky Way, which is toward the center of the galaxy, which I think is where Azathoth lives. I forget. But it's unclear. He had planned to make it go somewhere. Maybe it was the beginning of a story that he never finished. But it's an interesting one. Girona. So somebody on the stream for Deltarune said something about Girona being. I was like, I don't know what Girona could even be. Like, is it like My Sharona, like the song from the 80s? And someone said it's a reference to Donald. And I said, what's Donald? And they said Ronald McDonald in Mugen. And they just kind of left it at that. And I didn't know this, but it is a huge meme in Mugen to make different kinds of very powerful Ronald McDonalds, and people have made all sorts of funny animations for him. And the main pose that Flowery hits before he does his Girona attack, the one where he's all like stanced up, that's a trace. So it was originally somebody traced Jotaro from the JoJo's Bizarre Adventure fighting game Heritage for the Future, which invented asymmetrical fighters. Somebody traced him hitting a pose, but to be Ronald McDonald, and that's used in Mugen. And so Toby, like that pose that Flowery hits is like a Toby drawing of that trace of a sprite from like 1994. Hot topic says wasn't a reference to Michael Jackson. If it was, then Jotaro was the one referencing Michael Jackson. I'll find an image of him so we can see. Yeah, here we go. It's this. The sprite work in this game is so cool. And so actually a lot of Flowery's like animations and things he does are Mugen, are like taken from Mugen memes, which I think is meant to not just be like LOL memes. I think it's meant to be like, this is the kind of crap that Chris and Azriel got up to, right? Because what's going on with Star Platinum's mouth? What up? Star Platinum, what are you doing, man? Pelvis thrusted, sure. He's got to thrust the pelvis, but I'm just looking at this underbite. That is pretty wild. Star Jaw, yeah. He's saying a slur. I think Jotaro would say slur. He's like a 17-year-old boomer. I think he'd say slurs. Not because he hates anybody, but just because it's important if you're like a delinquent to say rude things. Like how he's rude to his mom. Like he calls her a bitch, and then he will go put his life on the line and fight ancient vampires for her. Yeah, no problem. He's a little Blanca coated. I always love the way the stands are animated, um, in the game too. But if you go back and watch the series, I love the way that like different characters will be more or less removed from their stands, or the stands will have sort of different degrees of personality on their own. You can really see it in Jotaro versus Dio, where like Jotaro will often stand perfectly still while Star Platinum does stuff, whereas Dio will frequently attack as the world. Like he'll punch and his arm will like be the world's arm, or it'll be like leaning right over his shoulder. Um, you see very similar with Killer Queen, where it's just always making whatever face Kira is and doesn't seem to have its own personality. Wait, I gotta get rid of that crotch thrust. That's terrifying. All right, I said it was gonna be a shorter stream, about an hour and a half. I think I don't have it in me to read another big long thing. Just the OVA. Oh yeah, go watch if nothing else just the fight with Jotaro and Dio from the 80s OVA, or was it very early 90s? When was that? Because it was 93. Okay, what am I thinking? OVAs used to have so much like love poured into them, and the whole industry actually kind of collapsed because of a random murder that happened. Then everything went back to TV, and the quality of anime dropped really hard. But yeah, man, there's a scene where when they do the time stops, the 93 OVA doesn't have the thing where the characters like spend. It doesn't have the talking as a free action meme. And when Jotaro first starts fighting Dio, he doesn't know what the secret is. He hasn't quite figured it out yet. So Dio is just teleporting around all over the place, and like wild things are happening. And Jotaro has to like work out with the information that he's gotten that it's a read a CVS receipt, says the bad man. Yeah, so go watch if you need something to do for the rest of the night, go watch the 93 OVA, or at least find the fight scenes from it on the YouTube. They're very good. All right, everybody, I'll see you tomorrow for In Stars and Time. Read the Communist Manifesto. I actually thought of doing that. I can't read it in Chinese because I can't read Chinese. I don't want to sound like I don't want to sound like Nick Mullen. So bad with names, I had to look up his last name. I have thought about reading the Communist Manifesto just because I want to point out a bunch of things about it that people think about communism, like even like avowed leftists think about communism that aren't in that. But I'll see y'all tomorrow, and have fun. I would be so here for Communist Manifesto reading, says Pondered. I think it would get like, I don't know, like the YouTube police would come after me. I don't know. I can't be saying too much truth on here, right? It's weird how the Soviets deviated so much from the manifesto. I think it's inevitable. Not inevitable, but it's the challenge that they came up against is inevitable. If you read early writing from Lenin, there's a lot of ink spilled about like how a lot of people at the time thought that they had the revolution early because Marx writes that you need to have an industrialized economy first, because the conditions for communism come about when an industrialized economy creates widespread alienation and class consciousness among the workforce. I think we know today that the alienation part is true, but class consciousness is not. Or perhaps that the rate at which class consciousness grows is proportional to the rate at which the upper class accumulates power. I don't, it's one or the other. But also, if there's a there's a CGP Grey video about a book, and it is called The Keys to Power, and it talks about like why dictators all kind of go down the same road. And it is because once you have a government that is not super decentralized, um, a small number of people wind up holding the the keys to you being able to be the person in power. Like, for example, whoever's in charge of the army, and it creates like this like situation that kind of always emerges, and so far there hasn't been a great solution to it. Genesis says it seems like communism can't shake the authoritarianism. I don't think that's true. I think that the when you have the combined forces of global capital working to thwart every single move left of Hitler that gets made in on the world stage, it becomes hard to get an objective read on what's going on. So to say things like it just becomes not just hard, but like it becomes really irresponsible to just start making sweeping statements about like oh, this can't work. Those aren't evidence that it could work. It's just that the it's hard to get an objective read of what's going on. Yeah, nuance matters. It's not easy to suddenly restructure the power dynamic to people who barely had any power. So spicy eye drops. That's true. Yeah, yeah. All right, off I go. Have fun, everybody. Good night.